All right, good morning. This is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. And on this January 15th day, this is actually the birthday of Martin Luther King, but we're actually going to celebrate it on the 19th with the federal holiday. But the actual birthday is today. I know several people um, whose birthday it is today. My cousin, who's the same age, he turns today. And I also want to shout out to Miss Hicks. She's always watching, and today is her birthday. So happy birthday, Miss Hicks. A couple other people, principals I know, their birthday is today, and should be a great day. It's supposed to be cool, colder today. Actually, it's not a little bit cooler yesterday, but tomorrow they're predicting below 30 degrees for the entire region. So not looking forward to that. As long as the wind's not blowing, though, it's tolerable. So don't worry about that. I want to talk a little bit about John Harbaugh. Information has been coming out about him being his dismissal from Baltimore. The owner has been doing a lot of talking, and he's giving insight into why he made the decision to release Harbaugh. And as you know, Harbaugh didn't want to go. There's speculation that he's lost the locker room and things of that sort. But the owner didn't say anything about that. What he said was he pretty much alluded that he's been contemplating this for a while, and he just felt like it was time to make a change because there's been a series of things that's going against Harbaugh. When they were higher seeded, they didn't come through. Um, Having losing seasons and just not performing at a level that they think they should have performed at with the talent level that they have. I can agree with some of that. And the prevailing theme was had that kicker not missed that kick, he was asked, would that have made a difference? He said, yeah, for about a week. So in other words, he'd already made his mind up what was going to happen to Harbaugh once the season ended. Now, it would have been ironic had Harbaugh somehow won the Super Bowl, would that have changed the owner's mind? I'm willing to gamble that it probably would have. But regardless of what happens, Harbaugh, he's moved on. The Ravens are moving on. They're looking for a new coach. And Harbaugh, he's been talking to several teams. He had a conversation with the Falcons, but he had never made a visit until yesterday when he visited the New York Giants. And it's being reported that the Giants are prepared to offer Harbaugh pretty much what he wants. And they pretty much wanted to get him signed to a deal before he left the facility. But smart, Harbaugh's, he's going to go and mull his options, talk to other teams, see if this is really the place he wants to go. I mean, it's just like when you date somebody and you break up, you don't just commit to the first thing you come across. That might be worse than what you just got out of. So he has to go and look at all the facilities and talk to the people to see if this who you really want to work with. But the one question I got about all that is, this guy's been around the league a long time. Why is it necessary for you to tour all these facilities? You pretty much already know the information you need to know before you even get to that point because you've been around. You heard the stories. The question is, who do you want to work with? And I'm sure in the back of your mind, because you always have something lined up other than what you got, where he might want it to go if somehow he wasn't in Baltimore anymore. This should not have been something that caught him by surprise. So this is why I think he decided to go see the Giants first because he's intrigued with that job and the job is intrigued with him. There's a lot of good possibilities there. We've got a quarterback that could be up and coming if he can stop running so damn much and getting himself concussed. He has potential to be a good player in this league. So that's the start. And the Giants actually wouldn't be a bad place for Harbaugh if he decides to go. But nevertheless, we're going to find that out probably within a week. No more than a week, pretty much what he's saying that he's going to make that decision. And the Giants fans are hoping it's him. And sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. Now, as far as Tomlin, the other guy, Steelers hold his rights up until the 27th season. So if somebody was to sign him as a coach, then they have to be compensated for that transaction. So it's likely that Tomlin's going to sit out a year and go into the TV booth, kind of like what Sean Payton did. And if he decided he wants to come back, then he just go from that point there. But don't expect to see Tomlin coming out and being a coach next year. Now, just like the Ravens owner spoke out, the general manager, not the general manager, but Rooney Jr., he came out and said that he wasn't surprised that Tomlin resigned, but he's surprised that it happened so soon. So everybody pretty much getting tired of everybody here, from what I understand. And Rooney said that was Tomlin's decision. They weren't going to fire him or nothing like that. That was his decision. So makes sense all the way around. But anyway, we'll keep our ears to the ground and see what happens there. All right, JC, what's going on, man? Daniel Berry Sports Highlight says happy Thursday. So we say the same thing to you, Daniel. I wasn't going to come on today. I'm dealing with these allergies down here. I don't normally have problems with the allergies in the air. I have food allergies, but the tree allergies are killing me. I got my eyes all swollen up. I'm sniffing and wheezing, and it just don't even sound like a place I should be this morning. But I'm going to soldier on because I got a football mindset, and that's what we do. JC says, word is Fox Sports will offer Tomlin a contract as a commentator. And somebody's going to get him, and he's going to make a lot of money, and he's going to be happy with what he does. He may find himself, just like Bill Cowher, just content with that. Forget coach and let somebody else deal with that. We can talk football, and everything is football except you don't have coach's hours. It makes a big difference. And once you get used to that, and ain't no coming back from it. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, I've been listening to commentary about this Indiana-Miami matchup in the national championship game. Before, nobody in the national media really wanted to give Indiana credit for what they've been doing. So now everybody's anointing this team as possibly one of the greatest ever. They're pretty much handing them the trophy. And Miami, of course, is aware of this, and they're using that to their advantage. They think secretly that they're a better team than Indiana, and they're trying to play it close to the vest. And a lot of the fans think that this is going to be a repeat of 1983. Well, if you don't know 1983, that's the year Nebraska went down to the Orange Bowl, and they were undefeated, and they were running through people, and they were expected to run through Miami. Well, the game ended up coming down to one play. Nebraska ran an option. They had Mike Rozier, the Heisman Trophy winner, just like Indiana's going to come in with Mendoza. They didn't give the ball to Rozier. They pretty much took Rozier out of the game. What hurt Miami that night was another halfback, Jeff Smith. So while they focusing on Rozier, Smith was killing them. So they tried to run this option, and they make the pitch, and the guy got a finger on the ball to make the pitch go awry, and they didn't make the 2-point conversion, and Miami won. So they think that this is the same kind of situation when you have a team that everybody thinks is unbeatable. You got the Heisman Trophy winner, and you're coming to Miami. So they don't want nobody to celebrate on their field. But I'm thinking I've seen Miami get destroyed on their home field a lot of times. I've seen a lot of other teams get destroyed on their field a lot of times. So that doesn't mean anything to me. But I recently found out that Indiana is an older group kind of team. They got a lot of older players on the team, and that's one thing that helps make them what they are. Now, I'm not saying Miami's going to win the game. I'm not saying Indiana's going to win the game yet. But I do know that Miami's got speed. And if you're going to beat a team with speed, you can't try to run wide and all that. The only way to neutralize their speed is to go right at them. And I think that's what's going to happen. Indiana is going to run the ball right at Miami. And if they're able to do that, then that's going to tell you right then that Miami won't be able to beat this team. Now, as much as Miami wants to say, well, this is our home field and we're going to man up and defend it, let's you not forget that Mendoza is from Miami. Don't forget that Miami probably didn't offer this guy a contract, a scholarship. That's why he ended up in California. So if he has to go all the way to California, well, actually, before he went to California, he was in the Ivy League. Then he went to California, and then he ended up in Indiana. If he gets out of town without a scholarship from the Hurricanes, don't you think that's going to be motivation for him? Now, the thing that Miami is going to have to do, because Mendoza is throwing the ball at such a high completion rate and he's very accurate at this point, they're going to have to try to get to him to affect his passing. If they can't get to him to affect that quick passing game, um, then that's going to be a problem for Miami. Now, what Miami is going to try to do is try to jump the route like what they did against Ohio State. But I think Ohio State was telegraphing, knowing that Miami is going to try to do that. They're on film doing it. So Indiana is going to game plan behind that. Just like I told you last week, Oregon, when they played Texas Tech, they pull out the kitchen sink. They're running fake punts and going forward on fourth down and all kind of stuff. Well, you just showed the world what you're going to do. So, if you did that in the first round against Tech, you had something lined up for Indiana. So they're going to be ready for it. Well, we never got a chance to see that because Indiana took them apart at the knees. So Miami, with this guy jumping a route like that, they're going to show him the same formation that he jumped, that Indiana runs all the time, and that mirrors what Ohio State did. They're going to suck in to try to jump that route, and they're going to hit a big play right behind it. They're going to come up with an RPO to destroy that concept of this guy jumping a route. So those kind of games like that is where these coordinators make their money, because if you go into the game doing the exact same thing that you've been doing all year long, the other team's going to catch up to those tendencies. And that's what makes those defenses look a whole lot better because you helping them. But if you come up with any kind of wrinkle, then you got them all messed up. And if you take that down to a lower context, high school football, this is what you have. High school football generally has been always the team with the best talent is going to win. No matter what you run, if you got the better players, you're probably going to win. But when you dominate people and you run against another team that's dominating people, now you got a coach. And the coach makes the difference in high school football. The better coach is going to win because he's prepared for all scenarios, as opposed to a coach who's just fortunate enough to have great athletes. You'll find that the coach is not that good. The athletes are, but not the coach. And it's going to come down to things like that when you start evaluating any kind of football matchup, but definitely on the level of high school and this matchup upcoming between Indiana and Miami. All right, Legion Steel, how you doing, man? I'm doing all right. These allergies killing me, though. Say, Mo, what's going on, man? You say Indiana and James Madison run a similar scheme at its winning games. Other teams need to take notice. Well, Kurt Signetti came from James Madison before he took the Indiana job. So Indiana James Madison probably just kept running the same stuff that he was running. But James Madison now, their coach took the UCLA job, and the Madison job was filled by Billy Napier, who was fired from Florida. So they're going to look different next year, James Madison. But the point I need to make, though, with all these people picking Indiana, that tends to get the team's head, and they start to get inflated with these thoughts of, yeah, we really are that good. And then when you get into the game, you have a different performance level. Well, that's common. That does affect these young players, but Indiana is an older group, number one. Two, I think it's going to be neutralized for two reasons. The first reason, you got this guy Signetti, he's not going to allow them to get off track because he seems to be a mental motivator type of coach. Secondly, allegations that was put in the national media that the way Indiana put this team together so fast that they're cheating makes all the difference. Because if you thought you had the big head and you think you're so much better than everybody, and you find out everybody thinks you're cheating and you know you're not, you just brought everybody back together. So all that shit about Miami talking about the home field and Indiana's going to choke on the national stage and all of that. That cheating scandal is what bringing everybody back together. When they beat Oregon, They made that comeback against Penn State, and then they whipped Ohio State in the championship game of the Big Ten. That let you know right then that this team here is for real. And if you're going to beat them, all this other side stuff that people are talking about ain't going to mean a thing. It's going to come down to, can Miami get Indiana off their marks? Can Miami control the clock the way they did against Ole Miss? Can Miami not make the mistakes they made against Ole Miss? In other words, can Miami put together a perfect game? If Miami could put together a perfect game and able to control the clock, then they have an excellent chance to win this game. It's got nothing to do with where they play. But if they can't run the football and break big plays against Indiana, and that guy's allowed to throw that football without getting harassed, then it could be a long night in Miami. And it'll make no difference if that's where you're from, because that's just the way it is. And I'll be interested to see just how this game goes, because Indiana will run the football. They're tough running football, and they got a good defense. And you see the way Texas A&M slowed down Miami. This defense here is every bit as good or better than Texas A&M. So Miami's got some tough sledding to do. Indiana's got a lot to worry about too with all that speed. You can't make any mistakes against Miami because they will burn you and make you pay. So it comes down to who can affect their scheme the best. If Miami is going to win, they're going to have to control the clock the way they did against Mississippi. Other than that, it's going to be a hard way to go for them. I'm not ready to make the pick yet, but I think you get the idea about where I'm leaning to. All right, let's see what else we got here. Do you follow UFC any? No, they have so many damn events. I can't keep up with it. They had usually the last couple of years they've been coming to Jacksonville, and I wasn't able to get down there. So to answer your question, no, I'm not really as up to date on that as I should be. But one thing you can answer for me, and I'm sure you can because you sound like you follow it all the time. You know, most of these guys are black belts, and if you look at some of these fights, they get hit by stuff that they should never get hit by. So how is it that all these trained black belt fighters get hit by stuff that they shouldn't get hit by? That makes them look like they're not even trained at all. Can you answer that for me, Legion of Steel? I've always wondered that. But anyway, Harbaugh to the Giants. What do you think about that, Selmo? I think that it's not a bad fit. Really, it doesn't make a difference where he go. He's going to have he got to be comfy wherever he goes. And he's got to hire the right coordinators. He's going to win. I mean, just like his brother's a winner. He just got to make sure he picks the right spot. And I think by going to the Giants, you get away from the Ravens for the most part. And you don't also have to face your brother. So you may see your brother once every 4 years, and you won't see the Ravens once every 4 years unless you catch them on that odd year where they have the that 17 game pretty much through the whole schedule. I can't tell you how they do it, but before that, I can tell you exactly how it works. But I do know for sure that the rotation itself, the Ravens and the Giants play every 4 years, just as the Giants and the Chargers play every 4 years, just by the rotation that they have naturally. So, pretty easy to follow if you understand where they're coming from. All right. But again, Tomlin, he's probably gonna go work for Fox, just like Selmo was saying. And it's like in the NFL when you have top level wide receiver drop passes like DK, they have to focus on something else. Maybe they're hurting the fight, a lot of variables, but I see what you're saying. I wonder if some of those fights are fixed. You see what's going on in boxing with Jake Paul, and he's worked his way up into fighting real fighters, but they had him ranked. But after that performance he had against Joshua, he's pretty much trying to wrestle a guy, and then he gets knocked out. He could have got knocked out in the first round, but I guess he's making side deals with fighters to, this is what's going to happen in the fight. Don't start fighting for real kind of thing until X amount of rounds. And that's what these classifications are saying, that this is not real fight. So they just dropped Jake Paul all the way out of the rankings. So if he wants to be considered as a real fighter, and I think it's too late in the game for him anyway, but as a master promoter, the guy's a genius. But he's going to mess around and get himself killed. He needs to go back and pick on YouTubers like he was doing before. Or maybe he think that's beneath him. But hell, I'll fight Jake Paul. I saw his brother, what's it, Logan, fight KSI or KS1 or whatever the hell his name was, dude from England. And that was rather comical in a lot of ways. These two guys standing right in front of each other, and nobody's hitting nobody. How the hell? But since then, both of those guys have, got some training, and they've gotten a little better. But there's still a lot of openings there, and I know it's beyond my reach. But shit, if KSI or Logan want to fight, hell yeah, I'll fight them. Just make sure the money is right, and I got to have my money up front. Otherwise, no deal. And I would go to England to do that. Okay, I definitely think there are fixed fights, but mostly on the prelims. Yeah, I can see that. Build it up, get people interested in it, just to see how it's going to go. Boxing has sucked since Roy Jones ran the game. Well, I think Roy Jones stayed too long. He kept on fighting for the love of the game, but that's when you start losing. You kind of like tank your image a little bit. Jake Paul versus DK Metcalf. Well, is DK Metcalf a fighter? Well, I see where you're going with that. He's fighting with the fans in the stands, so hell, don't be surprised if you don't show up in one of those celebrity fights. But you got to admit, though, those celebrity fights can be kind of comical because somebody's going to get knocked out. And I think it's funny to me. But shit, I'll jump out there if the money's right, like I said. But yeah, I don't have much to say today. I got to get out of here. The bell's ring, so I got to go to work. But I want to talk about Harbaugh a little bit. He's got options. A lot of people think he would be a good fit with the Falcons, but the Falcons quarterback situation is up in the air with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. Michael Penix is like one of those spoiled kids. He can only play a certain way. You don't feel comfy under the center. And when you get people around him, and I noticed this just by watching the game, he gets a little skittish when somebody gets around him. And it'd be like he's just throwing the ball away, throwing the shit in the dirt just to get rid of it so you can't hit it. And it's pretty obvious to me. And now that it's coming out that he's saying he don't feel comfortable under the center, it's even more obvious. So if I'm Harbaugh, I don't want no quarterback like that. I mean, I don't care how good you are at running the football. At some point, you're going to have to stand in there and throw it. And Penix is going to have to stand in there and throw it and take that hit. Now, I understand all the injuries he's had is the reason why he's like that. But, man, you getting paid the money to stand in there and throw the ball, not how you feeling. We need you to perform at a certain level if we're going to reach a certain point with this team. And you just got to stand up and take that hit. But evidently, you don't want to do that. So if I'm Harbaugh, I'll stay away from him or try to get him out of my program or get me another quarterback. But anyway, you guys, wherever you are in the world, man, I got to get up out of here. Legion of Steel, man. I want you to go to my short videos. There's one on there. Shit, did this shot beat the buzzer? And we got like 3 or 4 different violations on there that the officials missed. I want you to tell me, do you think this guy got that shot off, man? I don't think he did, but it's so close that the referees, they did the unthinkable. But you guys tell me what you think about that, man. But in the meantime, if there's some breaking news, I'll come back on later on today. If not, I'll catch you guys in the morning. So until then, have a great day, man. I got to get up out of here. I'm out. Just like my Steelers. I'm going to be on the couch with the Cowboys fans.